March of the Machine The Aftermath is a small set but packs a whole lot in terms of value should you be looking to pick up singles from the latest set. Here are our top 10 cards in Wooburg order from March of the Machine The Aftermath, and if you are picking up singles, go ahead and do so in the link in the description. It helps out the channel a lot. Filter Out. For 1 generic and double blue, instant speed, return all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hands. This is a great instant speed board wipe that can combo well in your Joyra deck, or just be a ritual for fast mana rocks after an ad nauseum turn. It's incredibly versatile and low to the ground, a good companion to your Cyclonic Rift, but one wouldn't replace the other necessarily. And at the uncommon slot, these will be very affordable to pick up. Filter Out is easily a great new consideration for any blue list. Ayara's Oathsworn. For 1 generic and a black, 2/2 creature human knight. Menace. Whenever Ayara's Oathsworn deals combat damage to a player, if it has fewer than 4 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then if it has exactly 4 +1/+1 counters on it, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Mix it with any commander that gives counters and you get a free tutor every turn. Now, will this slot into every black deck? Not at all. However, will it be a payoff in decks that care about counter manipulation? Definitely. Also note that the Oathsworn will eventually get there herself with the +1 counter game if she has to. Arnie Metalbrow. For 2 generic and a red, 3/3 body, legendary creature human berserker. Whenever a creature you control attacks or a creature enters the battlefield under your control attacking, you may pay a generic and a red. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value less than that creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. A budget sneak attack in the command zone? Yes, please. It's a real quirky effect, but by itself, it's a Dockside Extortionist cast, Direfleet Daredevil cast, and provided the deck runs effects that too care about attacking creatures, it'll begin to pay for itself as a pseudo-haste enabler. But what you really want is to cheat out big dumb creatures with other big dumb creatures. Arnie should definitely make for an interesting mono-red commander, and I'm curious to see if anyone's working on a list. Let us know in the comments below and leave a link if you have one. Reckless Handling. For 1 generic and a red, sorcery speed, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. If an artifact card was discarded this way, Reckless Handling deals 2 damage to each opponent. Red can always use more tutors, and this one can also be used as an outlet for some cEDH infinites, acting as an entomb after a Underworld Breach LED setup, allowing you to damage out the board with its secondary effect. All of that will require a little imagination, but a gamble for artifacts does not. If you're in 1 to 3 colors and they include red, Reckless Handling should definitely be a consideration. And as another uncommon on our list, these should be a fairly affordable pre-sale or pickup once Aftermath releases. Nissa, Resurgent Animist. For 2 generic and a green, 3/3 legendary creature Elf Scout. Landfall. Whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, Lotus Cobra in the command zone that can also find you elves and elementals. Idea being, play your fetch land, crack your fetch land, ramp out, and find your combo pieces. This does, however, mean you'll be limiting the number of elves and elementals to only the essentials, but that shouldn't be an issue. Namely because green has a bunch of ways to ramp beyond elvish dorks, and we have a bunch of those too. Calyx, Guided by Fate. For a generic and Selesnian 2/2 legendary enchantment creature human druid. Constellation. Whenever Calyx, Guided by Fate, or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever Calyx or an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control. Do this only once each turn. Copy those annoying stacks enchantments to lock out opponents, or copy your value enchantments to snowball into a win. Calyx works really well with repeatable enchantments, to get triggers off his own ability, or those of any of our Enchantress draw or value effects in the list. Build Calyx to slow down the game, and beat face with a strong army of tokens and hate bears. Cosmic Rebirth. For 1 generic and Selesnian instant speed, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. If it has mana value 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. You gain 3 life. Shallow Grave has seen a great amount of use as an instant speed reanimate for Necropotence abuse. Now we can return any small permanent that you discard to hand size, before Necro can exile it. By itself, it also works to help protect value cards in our graveyard, whether they make it back onto the battlefield or back to our hand as per effect. This is easily one of the best recovery spells in recent date and will fight for a spot in those Selesnyan decks. Heck, maybe even outside of that. And again, at the uncommon slot, we're seeing a whole lot of value here. Nahiri's Resolve, 3 generic and a Boros. Enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have haste. At the beginning of your end step, exile any number of non-token artifacts and or creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. Conjurer's Closet has been quite popular as a 5-mana card that flickers 1 creature per turn. How about a 5-mana flicker for all your creatures and artifacts each turn? It's essentially the closet, but on steroids. The only fault I see in it is that you'll lack blockers depending on what you have to bounce, but this card can help to protect important value pieces from turn to turn or re-trigger ETBs as the game progresses. This is a really powerful card. Do not sleep on it or neglect it due to its high cost. Narset, Enlightened Exile. For 1 in Jeskai, 3/4 legendary creature, human monk. Creatures you control have prowess. Whenever Narset Enlightened Exile attacks, exile target non-creature, non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. If you like playing a lot of creatures, using Power Matters cards, or using your or your opponent's graveyards, Narset might be a new commander for you. Narset's 2 abilities work extremely well with a go-wide strategy, beefing up your army of tokens or hate bears. But having prowess atop a 3-power creature means you can hit most every card in every graveyard with a spellcaster too. Narset may even want to run mill effects to help the ball rolling on her general strategy. Definitely be on the lookout for this list. I can see a few decks hitting LGS tables near you. And if you are one of the individuals that will be throwing down with Narset, let us know and share that deck list in the comments section below. Nixilis Captive Kingpin for 2 generic and Rakdos, 4/3 legendary creature demon. Flample. Whenever 1 or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Nixilis Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library. Until your next end step, you may play that card. From Planeswalker to creature, back to Planeswalker, back to creature. We have seen many reincarnations of this card, but none quite so powerful as Nixilis Captive Kingpin. Basically a curiosity in the command zone that can also one-shot a player after enough pings. Speaking of, fill your deck with all of the ping effects and take over the game. Have access to exiled cards granted on or off turn, and grind out for a win through beats or casually drop all will be one into the mix to finish the game right then and there. This is easily one of the strongest Rakdos legendaries in recent date, sure to be an absolute menace. I myself will be building a list. I know Will has built a list. I'm curious though, will you be building Nixilis Captive Kingpin? And that's it for the cards to buy from March of the Machine, the Aftermath. Let us know if any of your favorites hit this list or did not in the comment section down below. We'd love to discuss any other cards from this 50 card set with you all just down there. But I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, your local game guy. For more news and updates on your favorite TCG, subscribe to LGG and send this video along to the next gamer with a like. Thank you so much.